you mind if we move on to Europe? Because I know
sure.
you started off the Better Off Out campaign. That's all to do with obviously you want to keep trade links with Europe, but it's about expanding our trading routes and perhaps focusing more attention on India and China, and explain why is that the better way for us to go?
Well, the EU, if it ever had a purpose, is decades out of date. When we joined the European Union, it was a common market at the time, but when we joined the European Union, people thought they were joining for free trade. And I'm a free trader, we all believe in free trade. What they didn't, I don't think they thought they were voting for, was for 80% of our laws to be decided in Brussels rather than Westminster. And it's not democratic. If you don't like what the government's doing in this country, you can vote them out at a general election. That's democracy for you. If you don't like what the European Commission's doing, and all EU law is initiated by the European Commissioners, if you don't like what the European Commission's doing, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. They're appointed, they're not democratically elected, and I don't believe that in this day and age we should be having 80% of our laws decided by people who are appointed and are not in any shape or form democratically accountable to people in this country.
But doesn't surely the European Parliament has some sort of sway in these decisions?
The European Parliament has some sway. We have a tiny proportion of the members of the European Parliament, so even if every single British MEP voted against something, it's still likely to be brought in. That won't make any difference. So it's affecting our country, and we have very little say over what happens. And like I say, all law is initiated by the Commission, and we can do nothing about that. And in terms of our trade, we built our wealth as a country by being global traders. And I think our future prosperity is dependent on trading with countries like China and India and some emerging economies in South America and even in Africa. That's where our future lies, and what we should be trying to do is pursuing free trade agreements with all of these growing markets. It's not in our interests to be propping up a backward-looking, inward-facing protection racket, which is what the EU is. It's there as a protection racket to protect inefficient European businesses and particularly French farmers. And we should be ashamed as believers in global free trade that we're propping up a protection racket, and it's certainly not in our interests.
Can you explain why you say French farmers in particular, why you singled them out?
Well, the Common Agricultural Policy, which costs each family in this country about £1,000 a year extra on their food bills in the higher costs that it imposes, not to mention the cost that the British taxpayer uses. It's basically to pay subsidies to inefficient French farmers who would not be able to survive without those subsidies.
Why the French in particular? Why are they the ones who you're pointing the finger at? Why?
Because they're the ones who always veto any proposals to change the Common Agricultural Policy.